we go. Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by some of my favorite husky, hairy, huggable homos and friends to talk about films, either current or classic. And this week we've got a very current film for you. We're going to be talking about Clerk, the new documentary from an amazing filmmaker who's been on the show before, Malcolm Ingram. We're going to introduce you to him here in just moments. Before I do that, though, real quick, my two co-hosts are also with me. Jim Pugliafico, welcome.
Hey, thanks. I'm happy to be here. This is special, so I'm ready to rock it.
Excellent. Well, glad to have you here. Will Lindis is here too. Will, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm here with, normally I say two of my favorite people in the world, but I'm going to upgrade that to three for tonight's episode.
Fuck yes.
Yeah. So completely co-signed on that, Will. Malcolm, I know we've had you on the show a couple times before, but it's always a treat to have you back here on the Movie Bears podcast. For folks who may not be familiar with Malcolm, I don't know how that's possible, but just in case, Malcolm is behind films like Small Town Gay Bar, Bear Nation, Continental, and of course, as we mentioned, Clerk, the new documentary all about legendary filmmaker Kevin Smith. Malcolm Ingram, welcome back, my friend. How's it going?
Thank you so much. I'm not being rude. I'm literally looking at my iPad because I'm trying to copy the link to my Facebook.
You're perfectly fine.
Look, it's gay times 4. What's going up, boys? It's
great man,
to see you. It's too bad we're not in Austin. It would have been fun.
Oh, I know, right? Last year we were just so completely excited to see Clerk and see you, of course, and maybe grab a beer or something afterward and chat. But we're so glad that you had some time, Malcolm, to join us this week. Busy South by.
Happy. I've done a full day of press, and I made sure I was good for you guys. I was excited to do it. Very excited. You guys are amazing. I've known you guys for a long time.
I think
the first time we all met was like Bear Nation in 2010, right? Would that have been it? You guys
so.
Yeah, it was I'm doing the mental math.
Yeah, doing the math on all of these, but I remember down after the Paramount screening About to Win, we met up. Also after the I feel like it was at Ritz, we saw Continental.
I guess you guys are younger than me. So you guys weren't in Austin for a Bear Nation?
Not Bear Nation. I think our first one was Continental. Looking back at the
I actually moved to Austin. If it was 2010, I moved to Austin like 2011. So ships in the night, Malcolm.
Yeah.
Just missed you.
but 2013. I mean, it's been a while. And
hey, I'm not saying like what. No. I'm just kind of like But no, it's I don't know. I miss being fucking anywhere right now. I'm home.
Oh my god. It's just so crazy right now. Like doing South by online this year is just such a different but still awesome experience. I'm kind of curious because Malcolm, I know Clerk was originally scheduled to premiere last year at South by and kind of got delayed by a year. Thank you, fucking COVID. Yeah. But what's the journey kind of been like? I mean, obviously COVID, very unexpected, interruptions to things. How are things going with delaying this film a year for South by premiere?
How are things going with what now?
Yeah, how are things going? Like a year later, premiering the film at South by in 2021 instead of 2020. How's that experience been?
Look, I mean, it's wonderful to finally share the movie. Like, it's truly made for the fans, and I'm glad that people are getting a chance to see it. I was bummed out that individual tickets weren't available because stopped a lot of people from seeing it, but South by Southwest has a way of doing things, and I can't argue having the privilege to show my movie. But it's hard because I want as many people to see it as possible right now, because there's a lot of people who really want to see it. But beyond that, like, the feedback's been incredible. I've had some wonderful reactions. People seem to like it. I forgot how frustrating it was to read reviews. So that's always fun. But it's been great. I mean, there's been a lot of positivity. Kevin's happy, and that makes me happy. So, and it was a complicated journey with this movie. I made a movie about, like, one of my closest friends, but I'm also a queer social issue documentarian. So I try and maintain my integrity, even when sucking a dick. So I mean, it was hard, and me and Kevin fought. Like, we didn't talk for about a year during this production, because we got, we had issues. Like, I wanted to kind of, we each kind of had our, we had our space that we wanted to protect. I wanted to protect the integrity of the film, and he basically, and we're both very strong personalities, so and there's nobody in between. It's like me and Kevin had to work it out ourselves. So sometimes people have to wait till me and Kevin kind of figure it out ourselves. But in the end, it makes for a better film, because Kevin challenged me. Kevin didn't make it easy. Like, it's not like Kevin, like, the biggest fight we got in would be something that you would think that I'd be arguing for, was about putting Harvey Weinstein, talking about him in the movie. And I didn't want to, only because I felt it was a much bigger story. And the story I was telling, it was already kind of like, we're already tight for time. And I felt like, as I mean, there's victims involved in that. So right. I felt the responsibility to kind of, my nature as a filmmaker is like, if I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to take it very seriously. I'm going to take, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to go down that path. And I couldn't get my head around just kind of like, I didn't want to kind of breezily be like, and there was Harvey Weinstein, and now here's a picture of this. Like, right. It was like, but Kevin, and so me and Kevin fought about that. But ultimately, like, Kevin was just like, I want to try this. And I finally was like, okay. So it's a tribute to Kevin and my editor that is in the film. I'm not a good enough filmmaker to figure out how to make that work. And thanks to my editor, he figured out a way to make it work. And Kevin, I'll admit, Kevin was right. Like, it works in the film. It probably would have confused a lot of people to not address the Harvey Weinstein thing. My concern was that I wouldn't do the subject justice, because I felt it might take some time. But Kevin did a great job. So yeah, I mean, it was a rocky, complicated process. Like, it was very, and again, it was all about, maintaining the integrity of the piece, which is very important to me. And I think that, I mean, I'm making a documentary to Kevin Smith. Like, it's not a revelatory doc. Kev lives in public. There's no, you know what I mean? So there's no magic trick in the sense that I'm going to be like, and he's actually a woman. Like, it's like, everybody knows
that would be Kevin's a doc.
There you go. But I mean, it's people, his journey is well documented. And I knew that going in. So what I wanted to bring to the table was, I wanted to kind of, I knew the story to tell. I've been a fly on the wall for that guy's life, since the beginning of his career. So I wanted to entertain people. I wanted to get a variety of voices. But I basically, it was the 25th anniversary. So I figured it'd be a good time to look back. And that's what we did.
That push and pull between you and Kevin, I think, informed so much of what I took away from this film. And what I mean by that is, I noticed that you were able to get Kevin to show a lot of vulnerability on screen. I mean, between moments of him opening up, whether it be about mortality or failures or legacy, things along those lines, we get to see sort of a different side of Kevin. I'm used to seeing him as sort of like the charismatic front man, the guy who's got a joke and got a story ready. But something that you were able to do, let us see an extra layer of him. And I'd like to know if, first of all, how comfortable was Kevin with letting that vulnerability out on screen? And two, like, how did you manage to get all of that and pull that into the film from him?
It's, you know, it's a long relationship. We're like me and Kevin are like brothers. And so he trusted me. But, you know, again, it's a very vulnerable position to be subject to the documentary. Something that I've learned, you have to be very empathetic to the experience of being documented, because you have to give up control. And Kevin is certainly a person who likes control. And as far as the intimacy, like the way, you know, we basically just got really high. And, you know, we would sit in his office and we'd both just smoke a shit ton of weed. And basically our DP would get a contact high and we'd just get baked and chat. And that's how we did it, folks. You know, I could definitely keep up with Kevin when it comes to smoking the weed. So yeah, we just got really high, and look, Kevin's high all the time anyway. Like, and he's like, I'm not like, that's not like a slag. It's just a fucking fact. He's gotten, I mean, in the documentary, we talk about that. Like, he's been high, you know, up until recently, we had dental surgery. He was high every day since 2008. Every fucking day. So the dude, you know, he smokes a lot of weed, and it's actually, it's kind of changed kind of the way he handles things.
Sure.
So I mean, it's changed his personality, whether for the better or worse. I mean, there's no better or worse. It's just it's changed his personality. He's certainly a lot more easygoing. He's certainly not concerned about the small stuff anymore. Like, Kevin used to be somebody, you know. I mean, you see from his movies like Jay and Bob, he paid attention to his reviews. He was concerned about the critics. That kind of shit bothered him. He doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like, I remember, like, you know, talking, like, we hadn't talked in a long time because we were fighting, but, you know, Jay and Bob reboot, and you know, it got some really good notices, and I was just kind of like, yeah, and he's just like, I don't know, really, and he didn't care, and I was like, that's not the Kevin I remember, but wow. it was great. Like, he's let that go, and I think that's really important. Watching Kevin's career, like, there was a certain point, like, I knew it before Kevin did, that it's just like, you've earned your place, you're fine, you can do whatever you want. Like, you don't have to struggle anymore. You don't have to worry, because you've locked your place in the zeitgeist. So, and then when he figured it out, it's just like the world opened up to him, and he was free to kind of do whatever he wanted. And you're like, look, some people, like, you know, people are just like Tusk, or like they all got incensed about Tusk. You're like, Tusk is a really interesting, cool movie. It's a chamber piece. It's like Sleuth.
Sure.
Yoga Hosers was complicated. I call it audacious, and I'm like, I think the most impressive thing of that is that he got Johnny Depp to be in it as much as he did. Like, Johnny Depp's in that movie a lot. Like, Yoga Hosers and Johnny Depp, and the picture of any movie, it's like Magnolia. When you think of Magnolia, you don't think of Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is the biggest movie star of the world. When you think of Yoga Hosers, you don't think of Johnny Depp. Like, that movie has an infamy to itself. I remember talking to Dave White, who's a really good Dave. Yeah, he's a great author from Los Angeles. And he was about to see the movie. And he was like, honestly, Malcolm, what is it like? And I started like comparing it to like French Express. Like, I was just like, it's like the movie is punishing to watch at points. Like, it's just kind of like, it's audacious, and it's punishing, and it's fascinating. And like, when Dave finally watched, he didn't like it, and he was just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I'm like, you can't deny it's an audacious work. Like, it's totally, for somebody on Kevin Smith's level, to make a movie that like, Yo-Go's is really, really, really a crazy film. Like there's little brats, like like if you sat there and explained, if you sit there and explain Yo-Go's to anybody, they're just like, that movie does not exist. And I'm like, not only does it exist, but Kevin Smith directed it and Johnny Depp is in it. Like, it's a fascinating film. But I mean, but people love the shit on that movie. But I think it's delicious. That's part of his oeuvre, and he owns it now. And like, look, testament to whatever. But Lily Rose Depp appears in the documentary talking about fucking yoga hosers.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Johnny Depp, but like his sphere is so fucking huge. Like to be able to get somebody like Johnny Depp in his movie as much as he does, and then the people that you get in, you know, that allows you to get these people in your movie as well, like people in Clerk that you got to interview, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Richard Linklater, and even Lady Elaine Fairchild. Like, come on, like that is a massive get. But when doing the interviews for Clerk and your other films, like, do you have like techniques and tricks that you use to like help you like with nervousness, maybe when you're approaching an interview? Like how it must be anxiety inducing for some of these people,
you know,
for you.
You know when nervousness went out the window, and I swear to God, it's the truth. After Fred Phelps, like God Hates Fag, Fred Phelps, Small Town Gay Bar, my first documentary. I had to like, there was two defining moments in my first documentary that changed completely the game on how I deal with the process of directing documentary. The first one was I had to talk to in the documentary we cover the death of this young boy named Scotty Joe Weaver, who was murdered in Alabama, butchered, like horrible story. And within a year of that murder, I sat down and interviewed his brother. And I had made a documentary at that point. Like this was my first documentary. And, you know, I was very fresh to the game. And all of a sudden when he walked in the room, I was just like, holy shit. Like I'm just some fucking Canuck from Canada. And I'm going to make this guy relive the most horrible experience that a human being could experience. The talking about the butchering of his brother. And I was like, if I make this person go through this, I better make it worth something. Like I have to take this very seriously, and I have to make the best movie I can, because if somebody is going to offer that, and it even comes down to this fact of like when somebody opens up to you, you become the keeper of the flame. It's your job to tell that story, and it's something I take very seriously. So I learned that from Lum Weaver. The second thing about nervousness was going up to film. We drove from Alabama to Kansas in a day because we had to do, and it was like December 23rd. It was Christmas time, and so like not only like did I have to go interview Fred Phelps, but I had a whole car ride from Alabama to Kansas to think about meeting Fred Phelps. And basically, by the time I met him, it was just like I'm about to meet the devil himself. Like, to a gay man, you know, Fred Phelps was scary. But then I met him and I'm like, oh, he's just a man. Like he's just, and he's basically, it became comical because he was like a grandfather, because he had a real gentle side to him. Like beyond all that fire and brimstone stuff, like he turned that on. But when it came down to talking to him, he was like a granddaddy. And I saw him with his kids. It's so funny. He had like a 20-year-old grandson. And the whole time I was like, I'd love to fuck your grandson, fucking Fred.
Oh, God.
And I did think that, because he had a really hot grandson. And I was just like, and he was like this 21-year-old kid who was just fucking like a fucking meaty, corn-fed fucking Midwesterner. Anyway. And it was really, and it got so, I got so comfortable with it because I was just like, he's just a man. Like he's just a man. And I was in his church and I was sitting down with him. He's just a fucking man. So if you know, if I could kind of like literally meet like the devil himself and calm myself down, it's like,
yeah,
talking to anybody else. Like it's not. You're more. I'm more focused. Like here, Stan Lee is a great example. Like I had a very small window to get that interview, because getting that Stan Lee interview, like he was, you knew he was at the end of his life. Like it was kind of coming, it was coming to an end. And so I didn't want to be the guy who's like, yeah, but could you do that? Like, you don't want to push a guy. Like, he's obviously got a lot on his mind. But then I was like, well, I don't want to exclude him. Like, let's leave it up to him. So we put it through his office, and we were just like, look, like, this is not, we're not asking for a favor. Simply, if Stan would like to go on record talking about Kevin, we'd be happy to facilitate it in any way you'd like it to happen. The word came back as yes, he would like to do it. So the mission became to get that interview. And it was like, everybody who meets Stan Lee wants a photograph and an autograph. Like, that guy is, you know what I mean? He's just somebody that everybody wants something from. And my attitude was like, I'm not going to ask anything from this. This guy's giving me enough. Like, I'm not going to treat him like, I'm just not going to make a big deal about it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my fucking job, and I'm going to get out, and I'm going to make it as painless as possible, because he's giving me a great gift by merely being present in the movie. I was in and out of his house in under 10 minutes. Everything Stan Lee says in that documentary is in the movie. Like, incredible. I was in, we were set up and gone in 10 minutes.
Oh my God, that's gold.
Yeah, but that's what you had. Like, but it was just like, I that's how much respect you. Like, you have to respect this guy. Like, he doesn't want to fucking sit around, take pictures, and fucking chit chat. Like, he said he wants to say something about Kevin. I respected that. I went in, I listened to what he said about Kevin. He said his piece, and I left. And I was very grateful. I was thankful, but I just didn't want to waste the man's time.
Yeah.
But there was no time to be intimidated. Like, there's no time for that. Like, I can't sit there and be like, I have to be like, okay, I have a job to do. Fuck it.
Right.
Has anybody I've been starstruck and stuff. Like, Paul Williams on, like, I made a documentary called Fan Winnipeg. Like, Paul Williams, especially when he started singing to me. Because when I met Paul Williams in the middle of the interview, I said, like, we were waiting for something to happen. And I think we were changing a battery or something. And then we kind of came back in, and me and Paul are talking. And I said, you wrote one of my favorite movie songs in the history of the world. Like, it's a song that I've loved forever. And it's a song that's in Burt Reynolds directed movie called The End, which is a movie I fucking love. And it's like Another Fine Mess. It's a brilliant song. And I said, I've always loved that song. And he started singing it to me. And I was just like, I fell up. I was just like, like that kind of shit. Like, I was starstruck. I still got through it. I wasn't nervous, but I was starstruck. Like, you read about. Like, Penn Jillette. Like, I was starstruck meeting him. And Penn Jillette's the smartest man. He's the smartest human being I've ever met in my entire life. Like, that guy is so smart.
And cool. Yeah.
Like, I was just like, how am I going to do this? Like, he doesn't suffer fools gladly. That's his job. Yeah. So I was like, what am I going to say to him? Like, how am I going to get him on side? How am I going to let him know that, like, I'm not just a complete moron? Which I am. So I had to trick him. So I basically go in and there's this band called Half Japanese. There's a great documentary called Half Japanese Band Would Be King. And I think that movie played in South by in like the 90s, but it's a great documentary. But it's about this great band, Jad Fair, really cool band. And it's I love the movie, I love the documentary. But Penn Jillette, like, created a record label just to release Half Japanese records. And it's a very, like, they've done music with Daniel Johnson. It's very outsider music, but it's amazing. If you've got an ear for it, it's great. I love it. And so I met him. I said, it's great to meet you. You're partially the reason why I listen to and love Half Japanese. And he looked at me and he smiled and he says, no, I'm fully the reason why you like and listen to. And I just thought it was really fun. Like, no. I'm the only reason you know about that band. Like, you're right. And he was, and it was really like he was like Penn Jillette, like talking to him in the middle of the interview. He starts talking about Red State and how much he loved Red State. And he said it was his favorite movie and stuff. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, I was just like, Red State was based, Kevin based on this movie Small Town Gay Bar, and I did this interview with Fred Phelps, and like Penn Jillette stops the interview and he looks at me and goes, "Oh, so you made Red State?" And I was like, "Oh,
oh shit! I just stepped like in it now."
I totally looked like a glory whore, like, give me. And he fucking called me on it. And we have it on film. And my face is just like, literally, I'm like caught with my hand in the cookie jar, just like, oh, Jesus, I'm such a lame-o, glory whore pig. So that was fun as shit. That was great.
Well, that's Malcolm, cool. You have just such a great skill for pulling amazing things from the people that you interview, including Kevin himself. One of the things I was kind of curious about watching the film, was Kevin resistant at all to having a documentary made about himself? Like, did you have to convince him at all, or how did that go?
Only because he wasn't resistant, because he was afraid.
Check.
Literally a fucking message just came on.
Uh-oh.
That just said there's water by the mailboxes. Just checking to see if you're safe.
Oh.
It is just like
water.
Do you need to
Oh, like a river. You're near a river.
No, I'm just like, there's water by the there's what? There's water by the mailboxes.
Is it code for something? Like
it's water by the mailboxes.
Literally, I'm sitting here like a message just came up, and like my neighbors, like I'm gonna be 1 second. Like
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, for sure.
Do what you gotta do.
Water by the mailbox.
Make sure you're safe, Malcolm. Make sure you're safe.
Water by the mailboxes. It almost feels like something like almost like spy slang, right? Like just like like there's water by the mailboxes. But that the eagle flies at dawn.
The eagle flies at dawn. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Feds are dropping in.
Yeah. Am I supposed to like pick up a package or like deliver a package or like, is there going to be like a guy sitting across with the bench with little eye holes cut out of the newspaper? Like,
oh gosh, Malcolm, are you safe?
I think so. The thing about it is, I used to have a neighbor that lived upstairs, who had a really bad drug problem, and the most bizarre thing, every night he would flood my apartment intentionally. I would go to bed and I would wait, and all of a sudden water would start coming from my ceiling, and I would have to call the police every night for 6 months.
Wow. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So when I hear like water, I'm just like, please, no. I live in an old I live in an old building. I've lived here for fucking forever. And I love the building, but it has its problems. So when like it's just you want to be like, not fucking now, I'm doing something, but then you're just like, what is that? I mean, the curiosity is like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, is it COVID? Like,
beware the COVID water, Malcolm.
COVID water, yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, Malcolm, did Kevin need any convincing to make the doc, or was he kind of on board? No. Oh, no worries.
I mean, he did need convincing, but not because he's just why make a documentary? Like I didn't know if he saw it was something that he needed to be out there. He's like, I'm pretty much out there enough, and I had an idea, and he trusted me. But it wasn't like he didn't feel he wasn't aching for a documentary to be made about him. He was indifferent to it. He wasn't, but now he loves it, and he's very happy that he went through the process, and that's all great.
Malcolm, there's this through line in Clerk that I really related to, and it's all about kind of like legacy and passing the torch. We get to see when you talk to Richard Linklater and Penn Jillette, when you're talking to these people that, Kevin drew inspiration from. And in turn, you then talk about all the different people who he's helped inspire. Like I'm probably one of them, you know, like I was a little comic book nerd who would flip over the back of the comics and see an ad for Mallrats and say, what the hell is this? I'm probably on this podcast now because like that was my foot in the door to indie comics, right? This movie that you've made, I think, is a part of that legacy now, that sort of like passing of the torch of this oral history of Kevin Smith and just everything kind of being handed down. Is there any like inspiration or message or lesson that you would like people to take from this film about Kevin, about the process, about what it is to sort of carve your own path, anything like that?
I just think like, I just hope that it makes people give Kevin his due. Like Kevin's left an incredible imprint on the zeitgeist. And I think that, you know, it's just like if something's worthy of a document, like essentially like your thesis is like they are, and then you have to support it, like, you know, through the whole movie, like this is why this, and I think I succeeded in kind of, I feel I succeeded. It's up for the audience to decide on themselves. If like I think that I've made a great case that Kevin is certainly not only worthy of a documentary, but like his career and the impact he's had on pop culture is you know, you know, you have your George Lucases, you know what I mean? But like, even Kevin was talking about Star Wars like 3 years before the re-releases, like, which was where that it's Kevin has been on the ground floor of a lot of stuff, and it hasn't been contrived. It's been from following his own interests and trusting his own instincts and kind of going, as Wayne Gretzky would say, like going where the puck is gonna go instead of where it is.
Yeah.
And Kevin's natural instincts are to kind of go where the puck is going to go, not out of any kind of desire to kind of be ahead of the game. It's just how his mind works. He just is. Like his interests, like he's been on board, like he was involved in the internet so early. You know what I mean? Stan Lee was in his movie in like, you know, 95. Like nobody was talking about Stan Lee on that level in 95. Like Marvel was on the brink of going bankrupt, which you hear about in the documentary. Like Marvel's on the going on the brink. Like Kevin helped Marvel come back from the brink of bankruptcy. So when you see all that put together, I mean, I'm just kind of like, as somebody who was there for a lot of it, I'm like, holy shit, this guy's done a lot. Yeah. You know, it's impressive. So like that's why I'm happy. And I hope that people kind of appreciate the kind of like the, you know, the specialness of his career, and a man who's been truly fiercely independent and has forged his own path. He's totally cut a swath for himself that I don't think that there's a filmmaker. There's just not like he won't be replaced. Like Kevin Smith is a genuine original, and there's nobody that comes close. There's better filmmakers. But there's nobody like Kevin Smith, and I think that we're lucky in the film community to have his voice. I think that he's done a lot of. I think that by his mere existence and his mere tenacity to kind of keep this kind of vision that is being a Kevin Smith fan, you don't get bored. You know what I mean? It's not a boring thing to be a Kevin Smith fan. It can be confusing, and it can be frustrating. And it could be, you know, it could be amazing, but it's not boring. He's always adapting and changing and following his own path. And look at me just sucking his dick.
No, but I mean, like, but you're right.
Though. Like it's hard. It's hard. Not like it's just like, look, there's two Kevin Smiths. It's like there's the guy who's my friend, and then there's Kevin Smith. When I'm talking to Kevin, you know, I'm talking to Kevin, but Kevin Smith is there, and I've always been naturally curious. Like I always ask him. I'm always asking him questions about stuff that like, and he's very open about it. Like I'll be like, you know, because Kevin's the only person that I've ever spent time with that I've seen people like cry. I've seen people fucking faint meeting Kevin. Like. He has an incredible people have an incredible reaction meeting him. And you have to be like, it's just like, what is that like? What is it like to have that impact on somebody? And like he answered very like, it can be weird, but it's nice. You know what I mean? It depends. So it's nice to have that kind of dialogue with somebody, and he's very real and honest about it.
Yeah, and as the movie shows us toward the end, he's very generous with his time, right? He's very generous. I'm sure you see him as very generous in terms of allowing you, access for this film. And he talks about the fans that are he always seems to be making time to allow those people to get to know him just a little bit. And in that vein, you mentioned not being able to have individual tickets to see this film in South by, and that was a shame. But there are people that are definitely want to see this film. There are a lot of them that are watching us live right now. So can you talk now about any kind of distribution announcement or anything shareable at this time?
I honestly, my hand to God, I'm out of it. I don't want to know. I said, when you guys make a deal, tell me. I don't want to be any part of it. Business ain't my business. Like, you know what I mean? I've done my job, hopefully well enough that, the one thing we are working on is that we're going to, we announced, the night of our premiere that we're going to go back to Austin and we're going to do a real live screening at the Paramount. We're going to have our premiere. So
that's awesome.
Which you guys are of course all invited to, but we're going to go back. We're going to go back November 3rd, and we're going to have the premiere that we always should have had. And me and Kevin are going to present the movie. And then we're going to have little, like Kevin was texting me today about little ideas. It's a movie that's going to be very strong to watch with an audience, especially with him there. So we're gonna try and have I want to get it as much as possible, because I know what it's like to want to see something. There's that movie that there's that incredible documentary that's Sundance this year about the music festival that Questlove did.
Right.
Oh, Summer of Soul. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see Summer of Soul yesterday. I want to, I heard of the movie. I'm like, I want to see that movie. I want to see it a lot. I want to see it right now. Tell me when I can see that movie. So there's a movie I want to see. I want to see it now.
You'll cry.
Yeah. So I appreciate and understand that. And look, it's a movie for the fans. So we want people to be able to see it as soon as possible. And again, I hope that South by Southwest would solve that problem, because we found out when everybody else did. It's not like they didn't tell us there was going to be no individual tickets. We found out when everybody else did, and it was like, oh fuck. And the problem with, and I'm sure there's Kevin Smith fans out there that paid for that pass. And look, South by Southwest had an incredible programming, and to be able to see a first class festival from home is an incredible deal. There's nothing bad about what South by Southwest did, and in fact, it was a great deal, and they had incredible programming, and the access was really well. It was incredibly well done. But there's certainly some people that just wanted to see that movie, and I feel bad. It's you don't want to let people down. It feels horrible to let people down.
Right.
Well, Malcolm, super exciting news that may have an opportunity at the Paramount to see the film. And of course, we'd love to come back to Austin. Wish we were there right now, of course. But, if it's got to be November, it's got to be November. But Malcolm, as we wrap up, thank you just so much for your time.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, always great to see
you.
Did
I do good? Was it okay? Was it worth it?
You did great.
Fantastic.
Oh, man.
Where I was all
fucking rock.
This is a treat for us. So you're fine.
But the first 20 minutes, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm lost. Help me, I'm lost.
Oh, well, thank you for braving the water by the mailboxes, Malcolm.
Literally, I'm going to turn this off and literally walk outside and be like, there's what? And I got a fucking mask.
Oh, goodness. Well, fingers crossed that it all goes smooth.
Hi. No, my bathtub, there's a flood where? like you guys are catching right now.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen.
Is it where?
At Malcolm Ingram's house.
You guys, I gotta jump.
All right. Thanks so much, Malcolm.
Thanks so
we'll see you later.
Be safe.
Right.
Be safe.
This was great. Love you so much, Malcolm.
Bye.
Now that's the way to end an interview right there.
God, that was such a delight. Such a delightful conversation with Malcolm. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But always such a blast to talk to him.
Man, so great catching up with Malcolm. And I know we had to chat, and but just amazing to see another film from Malcolm again this year. I know we were so bummed last year when we didn't get to see it because of COVID. Thank you so much to South by Southwest and Janet Pearson. Janet freaking Pearson was in Clerk as well. So great
Clerk,
to see Janet. To pop up and just so much thankfulness and gratitude from us here at the Movie Bros podcast to South by Southwest Film for still putting together an amazing program this year, including, of course, Clerk from director Malcolm Ingram. So glad he was able to join. Also, thank you to everybody who joined us in the live chat this week for our interview. So many folks tuning in. Great to see you all. I know we were kind of like in it talking to Malcolm, but we were following the chat. Xander, when Clerk comes to Paramount, we're gonna have to get you and Bud, and maybe we can get a big group of bears together and go see this film. I think you're gonna love it, Xander. Give Bud a big hug for us, and big
Austin
hugs.
Bears represent.
Yeah, all around. Well, listen, guys, in case anyone wants to chat about movies or whatever between now and next week, when we've seen like 30 more movies as South by Southwest looks to wrap up tomorrow night relative to when recording, how can folks reach out to you on the internet? Jim, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter. That's where I like to hang out, especially for movie stuff. My handle there is @JJP Out West. That's my initials and the words Out West all smushed together. You can also find me on Facebook under my regular name, my real name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Thanks so much, sweetheart. And Will, where can people chat with you?
Absolutely. I shitpost on Twitter, so just look for @whatevercove, and you'll be able to follow whatever garbage take I've got for the moment. I'm also on Facebook. Just look for William Lindis. There's 2 of them. You want the one that looks like this, and if you're listening, it's the bearded one. You can find me on letterboxd.com. I'm William Lindis there as well, because surprise, that's my name. I've been reviewing everything that I've seen at South by Southwest, which is not a small number of films. So please check me out there. Give me a follow. I will probably give you a follow back.
All right, excellent. And if anyone is interested in following Malcolm, we're going to include some social media information for Malcolm in the show notes on the recording. But of course, you can find Malcolm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Malcolm Ingram. You can find me on Facebook. Just search for Brad Harris. I'm the big bearded guy, not the one who, by the way, has put the Confederate flag back behind him. He took it down around the election.
Wow.
He's put it back up. I don't know why, but
let's not go into that.
But can we say that maybe it's helpful because it makes it really easy for you to say, well, not that one, this one. Like he's using it to keep it differentiated for you.
That's probably what it is. He's like, why do all these podcast people keep adding me to Facebook? What the fuck? But anyway, you can also find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at iBradPro. Thank you again to Malcolm Ingram for joining us on this week's episode. We'll see you next week. I don't know if we're talking about the Zack Snyder Justice League cut yet. I don't even want to get into that. Maybe we'll talk about it for 5 minutes. Who knows? We'll see. But let us know what you thought about it. I'm very curious, just on a personal level. Drop us some thoughts, and we'll figure out what the fuck we're going to do between now and then. Goodbye, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend. See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.